Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just give us one moment, please. We're just having some technical difficulties. We'll be, excuse me, we'll be with you momentarily. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for that little glitch. I am going to tell you in advance, there might be a few glitches as this day goes on. This has been put together last moment through the night, but we are so happy to be with you. This is the first in what we hope is going to be a series over the next 8 weeks. My name is Candy Palmater. I'll be your moderator for today. I'm coming to you from the unceded territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee people. And I just want to welcome everyone to this event that's being brought to you by Reconciliation Canada, as well as the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. The name of this series is Bringing Our Children Home, a call for a national crisis response. We are hoping to do this every Saturday and every Tuesday for the next 8 weeks. Wherever you are across Turtle Island, I say hello and welcome. I'm saying good afternoon from here in central Canada. Wherever you are, it might be good morning or good afternoon, but I'm so glad that you're joining us. To start us off, I am going to invite Shelley Joseph to begin with a love song to put us all in a good frame of mind for today.
Kesla, sister, Candy. Nugudi Hekwagila Ogwa. My traditional name is Hekwagila Ogwa. I'm the youngest daughter of Quin Kuligedzi Wakias, Chief Robert Joseph. Before I do anything, Candy, I want to lend my heart to you. You shared with us that your sister had just passed yesterday, and the fact that you're here with us today shows so much love and resilience and the capacity you have for all of our people. That's just amazing. And so we will be sending you our love throughout the days as you prepare to say goodbye to your sister. You shared with us that she was a kind and loving person, and believe me, that reverberates through you. That's what I feel from you. So I think it's probably a family trait. So we're so grateful that you're here with us today, despite what's going on in your life. We love you. I want to sing a love song for everybody this morning here. Like Candy said, it's to put us all in the same frame of mind, to put us in this love place. That's how we're going to heal from the atrocities that are only coming to light for the rest of Canada. My heart breaks every single time we hear about more children at another school and another school and another school. My heart breaks every time. And I think we've been collectively grieving. And so I want everybody to know that I love you. Everybody, I love you. And I want you to take that love and share it around. That's how we're going to help one another heal through this grief. And so my song this morning says, "So big is my love for you that I cry, my precious one."
Thank you so much, Shelley. I really love that. And I think that was what everybody's heart needed first thing this morning. I'm going to ask for an opening prayer, and this gentleman doesn't really need an introduction, although I think I like to refer to him as everybody's honorary dad, even though there's actually some actual people here who call him dad for real. But he's going to give us an opening prayer and then share some words with us later. The incomparable, the one and only Chief Robert Joseph. Unmute yourself, Chief.
I do that every time. Greetings to all of you. I'm so happy we're together this morning. We're going through a really, really difficult time. And Candy, yours is compounded by the loss of your sister. And I look on the screen and I see the love and the resilience and the idea that we will never quit, that we do what we do because that's our purpose. So I want to say a prayer to the Creator for all of us, for those little children who were so disrespected and left in unmarked graves, their families, to survivors, and all of our Indigenous people, and then some, to remember the non-Indigenous people who stand with us in solidarity, and we're gonna pray for them to stay with us as well. We're gonna ask that we be guided in this meeting by the Creator's love, that the things we seek are difficult and challenging, but so needed as we face these waves of sadness and grief and trauma. We have to do something, and we have to make sure that we create some results that will allow our people and all people to be well, to be better. So I'm going to say a prayer in Kwakwala, and many of you on the screen have your own languages. Think about what's important to you in this moment and be grateful that we have been charged with the responsibility of doing whatever we can, the best we can. O matsosi da llacwe gachnoch cano hithile ka ola metlis igenakulafida na kwa kwai relasa. Mokwalafida sasam kinalte la zumkitsu is or that cordless lizakas lama atasne naktat fluida na husilakula. O matsosi da ignoke gachno cano hithile ka kwat meksida watam. All my relations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. We are going to move forward by having a little opening talk now about what the purpose of all this is and to sort of set the tone. And it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Joseph to do that. And I'm just letting everyone know that because this is our first event, we just pulled this together last night. I'm not giving full and robust introductions to everyone, so people will let you know who they are as they come on. But by the next time we do this, we'll be triggering right along nice and slick. But for now, I would like to invite Karen Joseph to give us some words.
Thank you, Candy. My name is Karen Joseph, and I'm here with Reconciliation Canada today. I really wanted to acknowledge all of the amazing individuals that have come together at the last minute, as Candy was saying, as we're trying to address a crisis that is running across our nation, and like so many that affect us as Indigenous people, is going mostly unnoticed and certainly with no response. And so rather than wait and hope that somebody is going to put together a response, the critical nature of what's happening as a result of the unearthing of all of these children. The impact that it's having on all of us across this nation, whether you're Indigenous or not, is significant, but especially for those of us that work in this space every day and are getting overwhelmed, many of us, with the level of demand and with no help in sight. And so we had such a tremendous response with the grief and loss video series that we did a couple of weeks ago. We had over 300,000 people join us from all over the world. And as a result of that, I gathered a few of my friends from here that you see here today to come and help and give their best guidance and their best wisdom, their best strength to us as we find a way forward collectively. But I also want to acknowledge some of the people that joined me in the interim of those 2 weeks, which is the Academy for Systems Change, and not everybody, but our fellows there that began these discussions over days and days and days and really thought out how can we develop a response? What might that look like? Who needs to be involved in that? And really helped set this next phase of what we're doing together. And those included people from all over the world, from China, from Australia, from the United States, from Canada, and so the world is watching. The world understands what is going on here, and the impact is reverberating globally for us because it resembles so many other things, although it's unique to us. But people understand the trauma that's been the blow, if you will, that's been left with our people. And so I really appreciate each of you for joining in, for trusting that what you know, that your wisdom that you'll bring here today and the guidance that you're going to provide us just comes from those years of experience. And the reality is many of us here know what's needed. That's part of who we are, because we're observers, because we're connected, because we can see these things. We don't need research. We don't need a bunch of engagement. And so, because that's what we do every day. So I really want to appreciate you and welcome you to this time, to all of you who have joined us. And I look forward to hearing what everybody's going to say today. And I'm so, so grateful to you for showing up and working with us, throughout the night, basically, to pull this together. And especially to you, Candy. We really love you and we don't get enough time to spend with you. And I appreciate that you're here. And I also can't imagine what it's like for you with the loss of your sister, Penny. And I want to welcome you here today, and knowing that she's with us, that your family is with us. And if you don't mind, baby, if you could please start the rest of this. Cowessess.
Thank you so much, Karen. For those of you watching, the inside joke is my sister Penny only ever called me baby. She never called me by my first name. And my family is home in New Brunswick. And if I couldn't be with them, I'm happy to be with my secondary family. And I appreciate all the love. I want to take a moment before we start, and I am going to take the full minute. Sometimes people say, let's take a moment. They stop for a few seconds. I've got my timer set. I want to take a full minute. So that's 60 seconds, which is not even a fraction of the number of children who not only have been unearthed recently, but the children who survived and the children who are trying to survive it right now as we speak. So in these 60 seconds, I'd like everybody to think about those souls. So this moment is for the children who never made it home. It's for the survivors who are no longer with us and those who are, and for all the children who still haven't been brought home. A moment of silence. Thank you very much for that. Now, to start us off with this wonderful panel of people that are going to share some thoughts with you this afternoon, I'd like to go back to everybody's dad, who gave us an opening prayer, and ask for Chief Robert Joseph to give us a response to this latest discovery and to set the tone for what's going to happen today.
Thank you. I'm so moved by the responses from all of you, of course, but responses across the country, across this entire Turtle Island and other parts of the world about the tragedy and sadness of the discovery of the graves of those precious little ones who never got to go home. I think it's created a moment of reckoning for all of us here on the lands that we share with the newcomers now, they call Canada. And even in spite of the waves of grief and trauma, we're still only seeking to find peace and balance and harmony and love in our own lives. And we're still thinking about the well-being of our children and families and communities at home. I've never seen so much resilience. I've never seen that kind of spirit. And I think we need to thank the ancestors for allowing us to be born and to grow up with that spirit of unrelenting response to harm and loss and grief, and always coming out on the other side with hope and promise. And so today we're gathered here and we're going to be seeking immediate response to the moment so that we can help each other, support each other, hold each other up, lift each other up, and move forward together, because the story is not going to end here today. It's a long story, and we need all the resolve that we can muster to keep moving forward. And I say that to all Canadians as well. You need to find the resolve as well to face the horrific truths that we're discovering, and to maintain and stay on the commitment that you've made that we ought to do better as Canadians in this country. We have never been here before. This is a moment that was unimaginable, but here we are, and we're going to find the responses that we need, and we're going to find the people that we need to create a momentum of love so powerful that one day we'll all be free, we'll all be equal, and this country can call itself just. So we have a lot of work to do, and I know in our own communities and in the settler community, there's a lot of confusion at the moment. No one seems to know what to do. And we've responded to that call. Those of us on this Zoom, we're going to try and determine some of the ways in which we can respond positively to these latest horrific revelations of precious little children being born in unmarked graves. I'm so proud of all of you, and I ask those watching and listening to stay the course, stay the course. We can do this. We can move beyond this moment of despair and hopelessness and be warriors for change, warriors for love. I just wanted to share a little story about I'm a survivor, by the way. I spent 11 years at St. Michael's Indian Residential School. And here's what I've learned in the last little while. I've been writing a book. It's a long way from being published, but I'm writing a book. And in all of the reflection I've done in that time, I've come to realize that all of the damage in my life, all of the erasing of my identity, all of my spirit, my soul, was already damaged almost beyond repair. In 2 weeks of all of the harm and the put down and the belittling and berating, being dragged around by the ear, cuffed on the ear, strapped, buck naked, all those things already had destroyed my little spirit. And from that time, when I got out, I spiraled into dysfunction and rage. I couldn't love myself, Candy. But there always is hope. That's what I'm saying to everybody. In spite of all that's happened, we can still become the image that the Creator had for us, the purpose He created us for. We can still be that if we first love ourselves, reach out to each other and love each other, break down the walls of hatred and racism, and reach out to each other and find ways to create that pathway that says that we are all human. We have one humanity. We have to learn to love each other. I think about those little ones in Kamloops. I've thought about them often in the later revelations. They've actually given us an opportunity in this moment to reflect deeply again, but about who we are as Indigenous people, as non-Indigenous people, all Canadians. And so we don't want to let them down. We're going to do what it is that we're doing here and do more and better, and we'll achieve the results that we need to make this a great country that thrives in respect, mutual respect and love. So I want to thank all of you here present, and to those listening in for taking this time to be a part of this journey that we're attempting to create, that will say in the end that all men, all people are equal. And then we'll find the way forward. Thank you, my precious relatives. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Joseph. As you were talking, I was just reflecting as a lawyer. I've read all the policies, I've read all the laws. I see what the purpose was to quote unquote kill the Indian and the child. And I am so glad that they failed in their attempt. The thought of your beautiful spirit being damaged is a national crime. And I am so glad they did not succeed, because what we would have lost, not just through you, but through your children who also serve us. So thank you for sharing that story with us and for reminding us what's lost, but also what is saved, which is really something to celebrate. For those of you who are watching, if you are in crisis right now, I just want to give you a couple of outlets. The Indian Residential School Survivor Society toll-free line is 1-800-721-0066. There is also the Cowessess line, which is 1-888-588-8717. Or wherever you are, turn to the person beside you and say that you need help. There is no shame in that. I think it is the bravest thing in the world. And when I get myself into those situations, the first thing I do is put my hand out and say, I need some help. And you would be surprised at how quickly someone will take your hand. So please don't suffer in silence and don't suffer alone. I would like to now introduce our next speaker, Shelley Cardinal, and Shelley is from the Red Cross, and she will give a little introduction to herself and then share her thoughts with you.
Hi, Candy. Tansei Nihawa, Masquis Nitanis Nihawa. My name is Shelley Cardinal, and I'm Cree First Nations. My kokum is from Tall Cree, which is in northern Alberta, and my Moochum is Big Stone Cree, which is more central, and I live on Lekwungen territory. I live on beautiful, beautiful territory and along the water, and often call myself a coastal Cree at this point. Candy, I just want to first say that my heart is with you. My heart is deeply, deeply with you, and how beautiful that you're spending time with us, and how beautiful that your sister is around you today and is with you today, and her spirit is with you today. I just really acknowledge that. And I acknowledge so much, Chief Bobby Joe. I really acknowledge you for your leadership in this country, and your leadership in the world, and your nation to nation leadership on how to stay the course. I think that so many don't know how to stay the course, and they're really looking for guidance. I thank you for this beautiful invitation to spend some time with you this morning. It's a really it's such a difficult space for us to be in, and what's really important is I think really modeling how we have conversations through difficult times. My father spent 11 years in Greward Residential School, and although we were from northern Alberta, they took him to a school that was far away because he had relatives in the other schools, and they didn't want him to be with relatives. And so he really, they really wanted to make sure that they could break him, and they never broke him. They never ever broke him, and he knows how to stay the course. And I love that in our family we can have those conversations about that. I work with the Red Cross. I work with the Canadian Red Cross, and in our work, we work in the area of recovery a great deal. And one of the things that really changed for us when COVID started is that all of a sudden we weren't able to travel so much into communities around recovery. So we had to really see how we could still participate with communities that were inviting us to participate, but do it in safe ways, and then safe ways for the community. And so we started to work virtually around recovery, which was very, very difficult, and but very needed. And it's interesting in that we work together with so many communities, and through COVID, we had 600 communities reach out and say, can we work together? And can we work together in recovery? And we asked, one of the first questions that we ask is, what is the support that you need? And they said, we need support because we're really, really struggling with our emotions through this. Often communities would say we need mental health support. But what we could see is that there was a real struggle through emotions. And so we do a particular program, and it's around how do we care for ourselves and how do we care for others. And that's been a really difficult thing within our communities. We really struggle with how to care for ourselves. We have so many warriors in our communities, and our warriors know what to do to create movement and to create change. But sometimes we forget in those spaces, how do we care for ourselves in those spaces? How do we listen to ourselves and say, what do I need? What do I need through this? And so part part of what we talk to people about is how do we hear ourselves when we're really, really struggling? How do we understand the many emotions that are so present and swirling inside of us? You know, it's really interesting. It's not interesting, it's tragic. I know that I sat with my father the day after to Kamloops recovered many of their children, and he was in shock. He was in shock, and so what we wanted to do was we wanted to just keep the conversation. It's like let's keep talking through this. That's what we need to do, is keep talking through this, and just ensure that he knew that there was somebody he could talk to that was there. And with this latest recovery of more and more children, he's angry. And what he needs from me now is to say, Dad, you're allowed to be angry. Be pissed off. Be pissed off, Dad. You're allowed to be that. That is absolutely whatever you are feeling is okay to feel. So part of it is that we have to have that dialogue to say, how do we care for ourselves? We also have to have the dialogue, how do we care for others? So often, I think what happens with us is that if we don't know what to say, we don't want to go to a place. We don't want to show up because we don't know what to say. We say, how do I even be present? I don't know how to be present because I don't know what to say to them. And sometimes part of it is that people need you present because they need to speak. Our communities need to mourn, and they need to tell more stories. There's more stories coming out, and they need you to listen. And so, you know, when we talk about how to care for others, it's how do we listen in an active way? If we see somebody with tears, bring them Kleenex, bring them water, bring them the things that they need in those moments. We sometimes, you know, we all want to come back to balance. That's the space that we need to come back to. And we go through many, many things before we can come back to balance. How do we support ceremony that's able to happen within community? What is, what are some of the questions that we can ask when we know that somebody is needing support? You know, it's wonderful that we have these beautiful support lines, and there's more and more support lines that are opening up. And that's a really important thing. Sometimes people don't feel really that they have the safe space within family to talk. And sometimes people feel that their story, they need to talk about things that happen to them with somebody else first. Sometimes, you know, I know that many of our survivors, I know that might, you know, I remember starting to talk about our uncles and my dad's residential school experience. And in those first conversations, some of the conversations he would say, I don't want to tell you that story. There's some stories that are really present that I don't want to tell you. And for us children, what we said is, Dad, you have to be safe through this. What is most important to us is that you be safe through this. So what we're going to do is we're going to arrange somebody else for you to talk to. So if you can talk to somebody else first, then that will be what's safe. But for me, when I think about, you know, what does response look like? It looks like what it needs to look like based on what is the atrocity. And this time of recovery, requires listening, and it requires being able to hear what is it that is needed. What is it that's needed for the care of ourselves, and what is it that's needed for the care of others? Hi.
Thank you so much. And you must have a great internal clock, there was 30 seconds left to your 10 minutes and you closed. I was like, this is freakishly wonderful. Thank you so much for those lovely words, and I love your artwork that you have. This is what I love about the Zoom time, is that we get to see people's homes, and I just feel like, I don't know, more personally connected when I get to see your things, including that beautiful cherry blossom divider that our next speaker has behind her. And Angela is going to get vaccinated. So she's going to speak next so that she doesn't miss that appointment. And that is important for everyone out there. That's how we protect our elders. Continue to vaccinate, continue to wear your mask, continue to wash your hands, do all the things we need to do to keep one another healthy and happy. And with that, I turn the floor over to Angela White.
Thank you, Candy. Height Square, Asem Nisiaya, Height Sepka, Nisqualo and Nistimos Nanemo, Ensnapa Hakumatak, Ensnapa, Angela White. I am the executive director for the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. This has been a roller coaster. I think Karen and Shelley Cardinal have said it, and Chief Bobby Joseph have said it all in very short periods of time. Our organization is a provincial organization here in British Columbia, and overnight we've instituted crisis lines that have become national. We've never had them at our organization implemented, and as Karen had said, this is the only way we can make ourselves have safe spaces is if we do it ourselves and find the capacity to do it. To give you an understanding of how much more we've become in what little capacity we have with our staff. The other day, just between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., our little line took on over 350 calls in that one short period of time. We are taking calls from Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, all the way down to the United States and across this entire country. We are at our capacity now. We are bursting at the seams, and I think this is the time we need to create these safe, culturally spaces for all individuals that are extending a hand looking for help. We will never turn anyone away when they call in. It is all about ensuring safety for everyone that is out there. Since the discovery of the 215 in Kamloops, our little organization has increased our interactions with people across this country by probably 10 times the amount. In the first 5 days, we were maybe out of 18 staff and cultural support that we have, and the cultural supports are elders that are not staff members, but are a part of our organization. For the first 5 days, each individual person was probably interacting with 300 to 500 people a day, times 18 people. That was going down over the last, in between the 215 and the 751. And as soon as the news came out, our interactions have increased drastically again. Within that, just to give people this understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. As soon as the news hit from 4:30 to 1 a.m., we had over 50 calls within that period on our 1-800 number. And overnight, one individual is now averaging about 40 calls within their shifts. This is why we need to make sure that we have the appropriate staff available that are trained and are full of the capacity of understanding and not holding on to those vicarious stories. We are setting ourselves up for burnout we're setting ourselves up to fail with not just ourselves, but with those that are looking for assistance. And to do that, we need to mitigate and move quicker than what the need is at the moment. I have asked I've asked other media advisors that are out there if there are other organizations similar to the Indian Residential School Survivor Society here in British Columbia. And, you know, there are resolution health support workers across this country, but they aren't at that same capacity. There may be one or two throughout. This keeping in mind that our organization not just deals with Indian residential school survivors, we actually have programs that are dealing with the 60 Scoop, the Indian Day School, missing and murdered Indigenous women, the Two-Spirit LGBTQ plus community, the missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys, which isn't even really on the radar at this point, but we have clients that are suffering from that. We're also dealing with youth justice programs. Anyone who is familiar with youth and those relationships to justice, that's a huge indication of where we need to get to stop that systemic racial bias and change, positive change within our communities. And so I think what I would like to say is I've been on go mode for these past 2 weeks and working 7 days a week, 15 to 17 hours a day to make sure our needs are being met. And we cannot sustain that. That is something we cannot sustain. And I am putting a call out to not just the government, but anyone who has that ability to help, to start setting up these spaces across this country, because we have only scratched the surface. We do not, as somebody, I had seen somebody say, we are at just over 1,300 discoveries now, and these are only 6 schools. How much more are we going to be uncovering? And so this is why it is absolutely important to not just take care of self, to check on the people that are in your lives, to keep moving forward in a good way and making sure that your fight is not hurting anyone else in that process. That is what I think I keep hearing here from Chief Joseph and Shelley and Shelley Joseph, Shelley Cardinal and Karen Joseph, and even Candy. Love is more powerful than hate. And, we're always going to encounter that, but let's not live in that space. Let's make sure that love shines brighter than the hate and that is out there. And I myself don't speak the language. I'm going to start wrapping it up here, and I'm going to end with my daughter. My 25-year-old daughter is the one that's teaching me language now. And what she has taught me over the last few days, and I'll probably butcher it completely, but I'm going to give it a shot and be brave about this, because my reflections have been about how much people that have entered my lives and what they have taught me over those years, and building upon those experiences to be who I am today. And, going outside my comfort zones. So I'm going to read what she had taught me. And it's Much smutning tlit. Much smutning tlit. That means every child is important. So I say ka, and I continue. I will say, I am at the boiling point of my emotions. So it's been a long 4 weeks.
Angela, I am sending you hugs from Toronto. My elders tell me that when people cry with you, that they honor you with those tears. So I thank you for that honor. I am glad you're going to take the time to get vaccinated today. I hope that you will take some time to just be with yourself, do something nice for yourself today. Thank you for everything that you do for us. We really, really appreciate it. And I wish we weren't virtual so that I could actually take you in my big loving arms. That's the joy of being a big woman like me, is I give great hugs. So I promise when I see you next, I will give you that hug in real time. But until then, please care for yourself. Very, very, very much appreciate everything you're doing. Everyone get vaccinated. Everyone get vaccinated. It's so important. We are going to move now to the next speaker, which is Andrea Nemton. And again, I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves because on this quick notice, I didn't have time to make good intro notes. Over to you, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you, Candy, for holding us. And I join others in my condolences and good wishes. And I would send you also a hug. And Angela, oh my goodness, you know, they talk about the circles of support, and we forget sometimes about all of those who are carrying. What you are doing is lightening the load of those in the most pain and carrying it on your own shoulders. And so I hope if there's any way we can start to support the lightening of that load for you, I know that I'll call on my resources. And Shelley, again, also, you know, for your work, listening, and that voice of listening, reminding us that first we listen. You know, this is about really listening and remembering, and then we can move to understanding and action. So often we're sort of want to try and fix things right away, and it's a time to create some space for grief, and then we need to fix this stuff. Then we need to move to action. My name's Andrea Nemton. Before I introduce myself, I also have to honor Chief Joseph. I lost my father this year, and I'm glad to know that there's fathers out there that can hold us all. And Shelley Joseph, your song was so beautiful. Really, it was really lovely. Thank you for that. And Karen, for your friendship for so many years, all the learning moments you've given me, and for it's really, I don't know if people on the call understand what an honor it is for someone like myself to be brought into this circle of strong Indigenous leaders, as someone who's not from that community, but I want to recognize that. So thank you all. I'm also talking to you from Toronto, the unceded territories of the Huron-Wendat, Seneca, Ojibwe, Mississaugas of New Credit, First River, and many nations. And I'm just down the road from a traditional trading pathway, Vaughan Road. And I think of all of those who walked that road every time I walk by it, and those who are still walking that road. And many of them are experiencing intergenerational trauma. They're being helped and held within Name Res and the other buildings there. And these are the areas that we need for support. It's almost overwhelming to know what to say in a moment like this. So I'm going to take a breath. And you know, I want to just say to the children, you know, that we're finding and we will continue to find, and the survivors who are not learning about this. We were on a call the other day. It's just touched me. It's just, I just keep hearing this voice that for many, this is not about learning about this. It's remembering it because it's happened to them and their friends. And that's, you know, I need to honor that and the intergenerational trauma, and for the survivors, and for those who continue to experience pain and suffering through the systems that continue. And to all of those, you know, the children survivors, the intergenerational survivors, and those who are continue to not have the life that they need, I want to just say you are loved. It's the only thing I can start with. This is the fact that, Shelley, you open with a song of love to us is remarkable. Like, what a spirit. And I agree with all of you that love is the only way to try and address this kind of pain. And we sort of ask ourselves, how can we help? Like, I just want you to know, there are so millions and millions of people in this country who want to help. They're stuck. They don't know how. We're going to help them to help. We need to help people to help. That's one thing that, I can start to try and take some responsibility for. And I asked myself, how do we help? And for the children, the only way we can help is through reaching them on a spiritual level in our prayers, getting to the point of us that we can actually connect to something larger than ourselves. And to all of you, there's another level in which we can connect as people, in friendship, and reaching out and sharing our resources and sending money and looking in the eye and listening and all of those things. And then there's another piece, which is as citizens. And this is a piece that is not for the survivors or the intergenerational survivors. This is a piece for those of us who need to stand up and demand from each other, from our governments, from our systems, that they start to reflect this love, that they start to institutionalize empathy, and they start to live the principles and goals that we have as a country. I don't want to be lecturing, but I also start to feel rage. So I'm going to say again, the only thing that gets me out of rage is gratitude. The only thing that gets me out of rage is gratitude. Gratitude for all of you. Gratitude for the folks that are going to stand up, who are going to share in your grief. Grief is an expression of love. Who are going to wear their orange shirts, who are going to speak to their friends, who are going to do everything they can to shift this culture in the country that has not yet shifted. It started, but it's not there, we know. Gratitude gratitude for those of you who are caring for those who are in the greatest need. And I know that's not necessarily my role, but I'll try and hold you. It's that the circles, right? We need to know which circle we're in. Who can I hold? Who can I support? What do I have? Do I show up? Do I send money? What do I do? When people are grieving, each of us, Karen, you spoke about our grieving ceremonies, our grieving traditions. We each have them. Live them. If every Canadian sent $1 for each child in remembrance, you would have resources to care for each other. There are so many actions like that we can do. And so I'll just end by saying, Miigwech, thank you for having me here. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the survivors. I'm grateful to them for starting the TRC with their money and their dollars to help us to try and be a better country. I'm grateful to the TRC for outlining the recommendations. We know what to do. It's been said before. Right now we grieve, we hold you. It's not your time to act, but we need to make sure there's an election coming up. If people aren't going to uphold those TRC recommendations, if they are not going to uphold the recommendations from the Missing and Murdered Women's, Indigenous women, if that is not what they're willing to commit to, then don't vote for them. I'm just saying that to people. And I know, Karen, this is not about governments, it's about people, it's about love, it's about relationship. But I'm just going to call that to action because I can, and that's my role. Demand more of the leaders of this country to make this right. The Indigenous people have done their part. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I always say, and I was just saying this on the social this week, when people say the government, I say we have to remember that the government is we the people. We the people. So it's always always important to remember that's us. That's our representation.
And
yes, go ahead.
And I just want, it's, you know, I said this earlier, but it's not about never again. It's about not anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I am locked down and have been locked down throughout COVID here in the Toronto area, far, far away from Mi'kma'ki, far away from my family. I have never been this long away from my family without seeing them. So imagine how happy and thrilled I am to know that I've got a sister from Mi'kma'ki about to speak. So even though she too is here in Ontario, it kind of gives me a bit of that East Coast feeling. And I appreciate every time I get to have that feeling. And she would know what it is to be locked down without a donaire. Donaire is food that we love on the East Coast that we cannot get here in Ontario. So I always like to bring a little levity to these moments. So without further ado, Teralyn Fern, I turn it over to you, my sister.
Oh, preach, Sister Candy. You know, you bring such a beautiful energy here, and joy. And joy is so important during this time. To someone spoke about balance, to balance grief and bringing in the gratitude. And so now I'm getting hungry thinking about a donaire. But I'll try to recenter myself into this beautiful circle. And I just want to say, Weli Exipuk Nsetnokama, Ninda Louisi Milladaj, Ninda Louisi Teralyn. And greetings to you, all of my relatives, all the beautiful faces that I can see, and all of those who decided to spend their time with us today. I want to thank you and honor you, and extend my gratitude to the invitation to sit in this beautiful, beautiful circle. As Candy said, I am from Mi'kma'ki, but my 2 feet are planted on the beautiful lands where I live in relationship with these lands that have been stewarded by the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people north of Toronto. And I have the privilege, the deep privilege to live here and to serve here and to raise my son. I'm the co-director of Turtle Island Institute as well. And I just 2 years ago, just completed journeying as the Director of Outreach and Support Services with the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, where my responsibilities were to lead and look at setting up a framework for well-being and support for over 2,400 family members, courageous, courageous family members and survivors who shared their truth. And so I want to first just acknowledge the beautiful song. You know, it is such medicine for us. And so Shelley, as always, thank you for using your gifts and your responsibilities to provide that good medicine for all of us this morning, as we sort of make sense of how we're going to move and what is it that we're going to do together, collectively and individually. And Chief Bobby Joe, as always, greatly privileged to. I love that you're the father of all now, Candy. That's beautiful framing, because it's something that's always resonated in our hearts, and for you to speak that into truth, that feels really good and comforting. So it's beautiful to see your face. You continue to be such a gift to all of us, and for your words, your beautiful words and prayers to ground us and guide us. And so I feel so grounded in this circle today. And Shelley, there's 2 Shelleys, the little Shelley Cardinal, an old friend, not that you're old, a long time sister from way back, spoke about modeling, modeling, that this circle is modeling dialogue. And I think one of the other things that it is doing is modeling how you show up, how we show up and be present and be vulnerable. And, organizing this last night and going, okay, well, what are we going to speak about? What might we speak about? Just stepping into this brave circle courageously, and trusting that there's threads that are going to come from this, and however we might be able to contribute. And speaking about love and grounding in love, and Candy, raising my hands and my prayers to your family, or families that have gone, and your sister, and you are here today showing up because of unconditional love and care, and these circles of care that in itself are a huge modeling of what is needed and how we know as Indigenous peoples to care for one another. And I know that one of the women had to step off to get vaccinated, but I just want to acknowledge the courage to step into rematriating her language and to speak that out. Such an embodiment, this circle is such an embodiment of what we know and what we stand in. And Chief Bobby Joe, you spoke about resilience. And when I think about these little ones, being unearthed, I think about the courage that they are stepping into, and the medicine of truth that they are embodying and reminding us of truth of who we are as a human family, as a nation. And it makes me think about, to go into this deep personal inquiry that we all have to do. That is hard. And so what is the truth that I need to understand about myself? What are those blockages within? Someone mentioned water. I have water. The water is a medicine that helps us move within us. What is it I need to shift and unravel within me to clear that space, to grieve, to go through that emotions, to try to understand and make meaning of my own personal commitments and accountabilities and responsibility to walk in a good way for change. And I think about that, and I think about the great emotional and spiritual work, and the heavy lifting that our people do. And so the invitation for others to come on board and unite, these little ones are reminding us of the truth of reuniting as the human family, reuniting together to collaborate together to make change and to bring about change. And I love, one of the things in standing in my truth, I'm going to speak some truth today. And I'm old enough now, and I've been doing this work for 30 years in our communities, that I do it unapologetically. And so, Candy, when you say that we are the government, I don't look to the government and the government system to support this work and this change. So it is up to each of us in this circle that are watching, every Canadian citizen, every individual that stands on the lands of the Earth Mother, to bring about change. And that's a large responsibility and accountability, but it is what we are called to do during these times. And when I was, someone mentioned the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, and these young souls that have been unearthed are one thread of a genocidal story. There are many, many threads of genocide in the history and the current circumstances of this country. And when we think about, when you ask me, what does a response look like? We have to look at the complexities and the layers of life that are woven throughout those threads of that genocidal story of Canada. And so I think about, we have to understand and consider the environmental context that caused the harm. And we have to look at developing responses that are rooted and grounded in systems approach, that there are many things that we can do. And many of you are doing it, sitting, providing space and dialogue, love and support and care and space for folks that are ready to start to share and listen. And centering our Indigenous ways. It's not coincidental that our spiritual ways, were illegal to do, and that our ways and practices, our ancient ways of practice was illegal. Because as we're being colonized and genocide is happening, that is how we know how to work our way through this. So centering those ways and understanding and bringing us more towards the pathways as we unpack, the experiences that we have. And to do that at the systems lens, to go right down to the root causes of what this is about, so that we can find out these different leverage points, these different pathways that we all can decide, you know what, I can use my power to work in this path. I can use my gifts here because I can sit well with people. Well, I'm an elected official and I can do this to leverage change and make change. Or I have a big network of people and we all can write letters to our MP and our MPPs to demand a different way. Because I've been, like many of you, been doing this work for 30 years, and we haven't moved the bar on these complex issues in our health, justice, education, child welfare, you name the system. They're still present with us today. And so it's time that we do something different. I hear all these buzzwords from government around transformative change, but those are words. We have to move beyond words. And we have to do it through our actions. And it is the people, it is the everyday Canadian citizen, is it every individual that benefits off the Earth Mother and the sacrifice that Indigenous people have given throughout these 700 years, where Candy and I are from. Colonization started in the late 14th century. So this is deeply rooted systemic stuff that we need to unpack. And you know, Chief Bobby Joe, you talked about centering resilience. And when I was in the inquiry, I remember sitting with a young woman. She was a 17-year-old young, beautiful, strong, matriarchal Indigenous woman. She was pregnant and her mother was murdered by a non-Indigenous man. And I was taken by her beautiful resilience. And she said to me, you know, Tara Lynn, I experienced deep, deep trauma and deep hurts, but I have a circle of aunties that hold me up and support me. And I am not defined by my trauma. And that has stuck with me. And it's made me think about the paradoxical wisdom of trauma and resilience. And for many of our people in our family, even me, I started my healing journey, you know, when I was 26, and I'm still unpacking all of that, you know, the residue from that threads of genocide that are deeply rooted. But I think about her beautiful teaching to me to remind me that, you know, we have to provide space to work through those pieces, but we are not defined by it. So lifting up the beautiful resilience and celebrating of who we are. I have, in the inquiry, we heard from over 2,400, and each of those individuals that spoke, every one of them knew what they needed. So it's not the government, it's not our health programs, it's centering the agency and self-determination of our people to be able to define what it is and how they want. And I remember fighting in those systems. I remember advocating with those government systems, Privy Council, Health Canada, First Nations Inuit Health, and fighting and saying, this family wants to go to Sundance, and we are going to put their care plan in place to do that because that is what we know. And so challenging these systems and stepping courageously into these spaces calls us to do that. And we need everyone collectively to unite. And that's what I think about these young people, these beautiful souls that are teaching me and reminding me every day about my responsibility. And it's hard. And so I'm so grateful to be able to be in circle with others, and that to hear Karen, you know, the Academy for Systems Change folks and many organizations and individuals coming forward to ask, what is it that we can do? You know, what is it that we can do? And I'm so glad, Andrew, you mentioned about, you know, financial support as well. I think there's a whole philanthropic area of folks that have the responsibility. You know, this is about truth and reconciliation. And what I would like to see is for every proposal that's written, for every organization or program, you know how you put in there 12% admin cost, 10% evaluation, put in there 15% truth and reconciliation. And let's start making this a part of our active work, because we are at a critical impasse in our time of prophecy, and the people have to heal, everyone. And when we heal, our Earth Mother will heal. And so I want to just say thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. If there ever is anything that I can further contribute, I'm here to better understand and to offer what it is that we can do. And I love the question, what does recovery look like? And let's start to shift in my work. from a trauma-informed care practice to a healing-centered design practice. And one of the things coming out of the inquiry, trauma-informed care has limitations. And healing-centered design is how we need to design our responses. And it is not about itting and othering those that are, victimizing or dehumanizing. That's what the system's set up to do. It's about us understanding, I am part of this system and I am part of this process. And I have a responsibility to do my work and contribute, because the inner work that I do shows and guides my outer work. So I see Candy's unmuted. She's going to tell me I'm at time. But anyways, Walalio Nsitnokama, and that is many thanks to you, all of my relatives. I'll do my best to offer what I can, and I deep, deep bow of gratitude for inviting me into this circle and for each of you in the work that you're doing to bring about change for everyone. So Walalio.
Thank you so much. The back of my head just blew off. A grant where every person who gets a grant, a percentage goes to reconciliation. Literally the back of my head blew off. I was like, oh, I'm jumping on that. Yeah, I'm going to be spreading that out over all my social media. People are constantly saying, what do we do? Oh boy, here it is. There's a real, doesn't take much work, just takes some money. Very, very great. I love that you spoke in the language. Like Angela, I don't have my language, which the late Grand Captain Denny always said, there'll always be a part of yourself you don't know because you don't know your language. So I try to learn words here and there. And when I worked in government, the Minister of Education called me late on a Friday afternoon and said, I need a translation from English into Mi'kmaq. And I said, well, there's no point talking to me. I can't speak the language. And his attitude was basically, look, it's Friday afternoon. You're the only Mi'kmaq I can find. You got to give me the translation. So he told me he wanted to say welcome. And I thought, oh, this is a word I know. I can say that. So I told him it's Jigalasi. And he asked me to repeat it a few times. I said, Jigalasi. I spelled it phonetically for him. And then I hung the phone up and I thought, Jigalasi? Or is it Jalasi? So I called my friend Eleanor Bernard and I said, Eleanor, if I say Jigalasi, what am I saying? And she said, fly the heck out of here. And I was like, oh, great. I guess I got that wrong. So I thought a minute, should I call him back? I did call him back, but when I called him back, I said, Minister, if you would invest in Indigenous language training, stuff like this wouldn't happen. So I took it as an opportunity to just drive that point home. 2 days ago, I got a tweet on my phone or a text on my phone saying, hey, Candy, is this still your number? It's Karen Joseph. Can I chat with you? And that wasn't even 48 hours. I'm looking at the time. That was not even 48 hours ago. And that was her saying to me, I have a thought. And this is the type of person Karen Joseph is. She has a thought. And less than 48 hours later, there's a panel of people, there's an audience, there's tech people, everything's happening. So to give us our last talk of the day, the person who at a moment's notice threw this together, saw the need, filled the hole, our fearless leader today, Karen Joseph.
I don't know about fearless, but yeah, okay, we got this. And I think that's the thing that drives me. Thank you, Candy. Thank you to all of you for being here. Because what I know is I don't know much. I don't know much. I don't have a whole lot of skills, but I know a lot of people. And I know a lot of people that love me and who I love. And so when we put the call out, I don't use that. I've known Candy for, I don't know how many years now. I've only ever used that reach twice. This is the second time. And so I'm very sparse with it. I've grown up with my father who's had people call all the time for support and for help. And so I know what a privilege is to be able to have access to the people that I have access to. And I do my very best to honor the sacred trust that comes with that access. And so I'm so glad that all of you joined us today. I'm so grateful for the wisdom that you're able to share, for the calls that you've shared. One of the things that's come to us, and we've talked about this, as I said, over the last few weeks, we've been talking for hours and hours and hours about how can we change this. And we heard a few things that people can do. One of them is what I like to call knowledge philanthropy. Share your know-how with us. We heard our sister there talk about a telephone system that's trying to serve people across the continent. And how do we make that better? There's got to be a better system for that. If we've got Indian residential school support workers across the country, there must be a way to get them a phone and link them up to be one of the providers to this. Somebody knows how to do that. Somebody knows how to make that happen. And there's probably a telephone company out there that will offer that service for free. Like, there's so many different ways that people can contribute to this that doesn't actually require money. You could give us a whole, money we need, absolutely. And we need the best way to utilize that money. And that comes through knowledge philanthropy. I have the opportunity to have a whole group of people that I can call at, just pick up a phone and ask them really complex questions, and they'll be able to say, go here, go there, go where you need to be. That's huge. I think in terms of the other kinds of support that we need through this, that's part of what we're going to be doing through this series, Candy, is really sharing different ways that people can get involved, different practices that people can use that combine the wisdom of our own traditional knowledge and ways with mainstream understanding and practices, because one is not all bad and one is not all good. The beauty comes in trying to weave all of that wisdom together and create something unique and beautiful that serves all of us, and not all of us know how to do that. So during these 16 sessions that we're going to have with you, we're going to try to share as much of that as we can so that we're able to equip more people to help. Being there during this time doesn't need to be complex. You saw the kind of levels of workloads that each of us has during this time of crisis. This is a national crisis. What Angela didn't say is it's not only Indigenous people contacting her through that crisis line, it's also non-Indigenous people who are experiencing the grief or getting overwhelmed by this, who are trying to share stories of support and all of those things. She mentioned, over 300 people in a 4-hour time period, or in a very short time period. What she doesn't mention is each of those calls takes 60 to 90 minutes to respond to, because you're providing the usual sort of talk therapy, but also specific grounding techniques and traditional medicine if that's what's needed. And so we know how to respond in those ways, and we need more people who can come and do that. And so if you know of a survivor or a resolution health support worker in your area, let's find a way to get them a phone and find some resources to pay for their services and link them up. It's not that difficult. I think that one of the things that I really wanted to share with people, and thank you so much, Candy, for sharing this with us, because I think it speaks to all of us who work in this field, because the demand is so big, and you'll never hear our leaders talking about power. You'll never hear them, the true leaders, that the way that Indigenous people view leadership. What you'll talk about is responsibility. You'll talk about this ability to connect and to lean on other people. And that's our responsibility. And that comes from the time you're a little child. If everybody's preparing food, you step up there and all you know how to do is stick your big, have a lot of fun and stick a big spoon into a bag of sugar and throw it on the other side. That's your job, and take it very seriously. So there were a couple of really beautiful things that happened since the last phone call. There was a tech person that called me up that had some, that helped us set up our system. And he said, I noticed that when you guys had that call, your internet crashed and there was all of this challenges. He goes, I don't need you to do anything. I just need your permission to go in and build it up for you so that you can host these things in the future. And I don't have a clue what he does, but I trust him. And so he went up and fixed it for us. So we'll know after this whether or not it worked. But that was a beautiful gift. He says, no charge. And so there are ways people can provide those services. We also had another friend of ours who works with us that brought us food. We're all like overworked. I don't know how many packs of whatever we've been drinking or eating because we're working 14 to 16 hours a day. We're not actually able to get healthy meals or cook healthy meals. That just how you provide for people when they're grieving, that's what our organizations that are trying to respond to this also need, right? Is that ability to take care of ourselves in some way, right? And I think, as we go through, I think one of the worst things that's going to happen, and I will caution people in terms of using numbers, it's challenged when you do that because like survivors of many other genocidal activities across the world, these children were assigned numbers. They can remember their numbers. Please remember to recognize that these are children, that these are the souls and the bodies and the spirits of our children. Not just Indigenous children, but now because they have emerged from the earth on which we share, the Mother Earth that we share, she has given them back to us so that we can take them home. That's the purpose of this. We need to bring our children home and we need to care, we need to grieve for them, we need to honor them, and we need to move forward. So we talked a lot about these systems, this healing-centered design response. Reconciliation Canada is setting up a fund for us to be able to gather the resources that we need as Indigenous people to address this issue head on, to help support a national response and to help build some infrastructure for us to be able to do that. The other thing that we're doing, and we will announce it as we go along here, but when those first survivors came out of Indian residential schools in the 40s and 50s, and they were educated, and a certain group of them were meant to be the ones that go back and kind of convert everybody else, they made the mistake of bringing them into the cities across this country. And it was the first time those all young men were allowed to connect with one another outside of the oversight of the churches. And those are where the Native Indian Brotherhood and all of the Indian movements were created across this country. One of the first things that they said when they came out of there that they wanted, and has never happened in this country yet, and I am bound and determined to make it happen, is that as a restoration for those schools, that we build in our cities across this country, our own homes, our schools, our big houses, our longhouses, and we create centers of restoration that are going to provide those kids that are continuing to be taken away with access to culture, with access to language, with access to a sense of belonging, pride, and it's going to provide an opportunity for these people, our elders, our wisdom keepers, to be able to come and share our language, to share our stories, to share our history. And that's going to be also the place that we hope to erect those simple ask that the survivors had of us, of memorials that have never happened across this country. We're going to make those happen in those spaces. So we're going to need your support to make that a reality. So we're going to be putting that out over the next few days and weeks and months, because this is going to be here for a while. But we're going to find a way to make that happen. So with that, I want to thank again everybody that's been here. As Candy mentioned, her sister loved so much. We all love so much. and we show up as best we can. And please, let's find a way to learn how to love ourselves as much as we're able to love others, so that we can take care of ourselves as we move through this, and we can get to the other side with significant change, because this is the moment. Those children have put the cry out to us, and we are going to respond to the call of our children. So thank you to all of you who have joined us today. Thank you to all of you who have contributed. I turn this over to the incomparable Candy Palmetier and Marie Porter, and I thank you, Dad, for staying the course for over 30 years and making this possible for us. It's amazing what each of us can do when we're committed in love. So,
Thank you for those beautiful words and for grounding us all in where we need to be. We are coming to the end of this session. I am going to invite Juno Award-winning musician Marie Porter to do a song, and then I will come back for closing remarks and to let you know when you can find us again. So without further ado, Marie, soothe our soul.
To the 7:15. Now you say you're sorry. It's not what you say, it's what you do. You tell us you'll do better, but it's hard to believe in you. The day has finally come. You told the world that you were wrong, but far too many have passed on now. When it's sorry enough, took away our children, stole their mother's love, laid waste to our traditions. Wasn't that enough? Separated from our culture so many years, so alone, with no mothers and no fathers, in a world so far from home. Thought to use another language and punished when you spoke your native tongue. You're trying to kill our spirits, yeah, but our heart still beats as one. Took away our children, stole our mother's love, laid waste to our traditions. Wasn't that enough? Hey Yahweh, hey Yahweh, hey Yahweh, hey Yahweh, yeah. wasn't born to be here. The city's not my home, not my native land. Now the streets are so familiar, but this is not what our mothers planned. You took away our children, stole our mother's love. Laid waste to our traditions. Wasn't that enough? And will it be enough? Yeah, when it's sorry enough. Thanks, everybody.
I am so glad I made the choice to be with you all today, because I would not have had that beautiful gift. And let me tell you, my heart needed that today, Murray, so much. And I can tell by the faces on everyone else, you moved us incredibly. And I was just thinking while you were playing that they would not let the children sing or have music in those schools. And man, oh man, what a way to show your gift. Thank you so much, Murray. I think you just made everybody's day. What a beautiful, beautiful song. That brings us to the close of the first session. I want to remind you that we are going to try to do this every Saturday, every Tuesday over the next 8 weeks. Make sure you are there. Remember when you get on an airplane and the flight attendant tells you, put your own mask on before you secure someone else's? I end by telling you the same thing. Love yourself first. Take care of this, and then you will be strong enough to take care of everyone else around you. So I bid you love, and I will see you all on Tuesday.